Man, Ricky, you've just had an amazing season on From this season. I feel like Kenny's been such a huge part of it, but man, we got to talk about it. We got to talk about the scene. Kenny
Yeah.
finds out the truth about Sarah and confronts Boyd. Talk about, man, just the emotion of filming
Right.
that scene and the effect it's going to have on him going forward.
Right. I think that man, it's a big one. It's a doozy. And I think that the first time I read it, I was like sobbing, weeping my eyes out. This is crazy. It's heartbreaking. It's a intense and powerful betrayal because Boyd is not only a leader and a role model for Kenny, but a father figure, and to lose two father figures in such a short amount of time, one to death, and then one uh, because of betrayal surrounding the death of his actual biological father. I think, yeah, it's heartbreaking.
That kind of leads us into what fans were already starting to think is that, okay, there's got to be a confrontation with Sarah at some point. We're not going to give away any spoilers, not going to say if it's happening or not happening, but if it did,
Right,
how ugly is that going to get, man?
man. All I can say is in some of the earlier drafts, and even in some of the versions that we had shot, I thought this was going to be Kenny's origin, like villain origin story. I thought,
Ooh.
yeah, I thought I'm like, oh, there's the bad guy in town. Uh, um, but something's coming. Something's coming.
He's
Yeah.
just such a solid dude though. That's why that's when I think about it, I'm like, I don't see it from him. Like obviously, people get mad, people get upset, but he's just such a
Right.
solid and cool dude. I just don't see the rage factor from him. You know what I mean?
Right. So I think that like the rage will come, but like you said, he is such a complex and layered person and a good guy. Like I think he's got good values that I think that maybe it's not his villain origin story, but maybe that's actually what makes his character more interesting.
Interesting, interesting.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
obviously Kenny still has his mom, and he's going to be
Yeah.
very protective of her for obvious reasons going forward. But I feel like he needs someone to lean on through all this turmoil. Do you think he's going to find that someone, or at least just find a way to go forward?
Mm. I think that at the end of the day, it's his mom, right? I mean, if Tianchen were out of the equation, maybe he would have fallen off the deep end. Um, but I think that's the main thing driving him. He still has a responsibility to his family, though his family is just his mom at this point. Like he has a responsibility to his family, and through her, a responsibility to himself. It does in a lot of moments throughout the season, and in general for a lot of the characters on the show, feel like if it's like the town is like the dark side, and he's like, it's like do it, and it's like like everything and he's just kind of like no, so it's him fighting that internal like evil, that internal like malice, like how do I become the bigger person, and how do I try to put my best foot forwards.
There's a lot of internal and external evil on this show. That
Oh
there's
yeah.
no question about that. Now,
Yeah.
there's been so much going on. There's so much turmoil. We haven't really gotten an update on Kenny and Christy recently. I know, her fiance comes back. That
Right.
may have put an end to it, but is the door completely closed there, you think?
I think that so speaking as a fan and as a viewer, like externally, I don't think so. I hope not. I don't know. Um, but as Kenny, I was saying this to some friends, like, there is a little bit of the moment that Marielle stepped off the bus, it became abundantly clear that any fantasy that Kenny had of like, oh, this person was placed here for me and I was placed in this town for her. Maybe this is why we're all stuck here. At least we met each other. We're made for each other. We're each other's person. Any fantasy or illusion of that immediately was, dissipated because this is your person. What are the odds that you and your fiance show up at the same town? Like, so to Kenny, I think it's over, unfortunately.
That's kind of a bummer. But you know what happens when you don't close doors all the way in this town. So I'm just
Yeah.
saying that if it's not closed all the way, you just
Monsters
kind of
get in.
you just kind of never know. before I let you go, Ricky, it feels
Yeah,
like more and more people in the town are seeing visions. Things are slowly starting to change. The tension's getting
right.
higher. Are we getting closer and closer to the breaking point more so than we ever have before in the series?
I think that's honestly the theme of the show. I think and I'm as a fan of the show, I'm excited to see what happens in season 3 because yeah, every episode, every season, it seems we creep closer and closer to that breaking point, and it just makes you wonder what is the breaking point.
Well, we're getting closer and closer to it for sure. We'll have to find out what that might be when From airs every Sunday on MGM Plus. Things are just getting better and better, and this guy's a big part of that. Ricky, thank you so much for your time, man.
Thank
I
you so
really
much,
appreciate
man.
it.
Appreciate you, James.